As in the previous segment, here's another set of images with something in common. How is it that drinking a cup of coffee is like filling a swimming pool with water? If you look at each one of the images, you realize that each one of them represents progress toward a goal. The lower left corner down here, they're painting a house, so when they finish painting the house, they're done. When you drink a cup of coffee, when it's empty, you're done. When you fill a cup of coffee, when it's full, you're done. When you're planting a garden, when you finish planting it, you're done. So that each of the images represents progress from start to finish to attain some goal. And the typical structure for this kind of activity is you have a goal, you start at some starting point, and you progress toward that goal, and the activity that moves you toward the goal begins at some level and declines over time until the current value reaches the goal, at which time the activity stops. This behavior is created by a structure which initially looks, or in part, looks just like the reinforcing growth structure from previous. So we begin with a stock, which represents the accumulation, and in this particular instance, it represents the percentage completion of the goal, though in different instances it might represent the amount of water in the swimming pool, or the amount of coffee in the cup, or the amount of rice harvested. It's a quantity of something, or a representative value for a quantity of something. So as in this instance, I'm using it to represent the percent completion. Flow indicates effort done to move that quantity in the direction, so that in this instance the stock simply provides feedback, and factor is just governing the amount of that flow. To that we add the goal itself. In this instance the goal is 1 or 100%. So that flow is now defined as the difference between the goal and the stock times the factor. So that this is what we're trying to attain, the goal. The stock is the current value. The difference between those represents a gap, and the gap is what influences the action. And factor simply provides a sort of a limit to how much of that interaction can happen at any given point in time. So based upon that, the stock begins at 0 and progresses toward the goal over time as the activity, the flow, which is moving the stock in the direction of the goal, declines over time. So this is what I consider the third essence property. It's a goal-seeking structure from what's called balancing feedback as opposed to reinforcing feedback, because it's the value of the stock fed back that actually diminishes the flow, so that as you get closer and closer to the goal, the flow gets smaller and smaller until such time as you actually reach the goal. When the stock reaches the goal, the flow becomes 0. So this particular model is in the reference section of this lecture, and I recommend that you go and access the model and run the simulation numerous times, changing the value of the stock, goal, and the factor, and do that repeatedly until you get a sense of how the structure behaves, and become comfortable with that behavior. And I'll see you in the next segment. Bye.